Hello and welcome everyone to a very exciting presentation with the Dallas Museum of Art. We had 197 people registered. We've got 131 with us in the room today. I know a lot of you like to double up. So welcome, welcome. Just wanted to let everyone know out in Facebook land and here in the Zoom that our amazing and wonderful, wonderful owner was interviewed on KRLD 1080 AM today. And that interview is going to play between 3 and 7 p.m. So if you would like to tune in and listen to that, we most certainly invite you to do so. We are just tickled pink that she got to do that. So that being said, today we have two fantastic presenters with us today. We have the Director of Community Engagement, Mary Ann Benet, and she is the bilingual Director of Community Engagement at the Dallas Museum of Art. Her team collaborates with community organizations and residents to create relevant and responsive programming that increases equitable access to the arts. She's worked in museum education since 2010 at institutions including El Museo del Barrio, the Brooklyn Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and Marquette University's Haggerty Museum of Art. Mary Ann attended Columbia University, where she earned her bachelor's in Latin American history with a concentration in art history and a master's in art and art education. While in graduate school, she was a research fellow at the Whitney Museum and contributed to the IMLS-funded Room to Rise, the lasting impact of intensive teen programs in art museums study. Mary Ann is passionate about asset-based community development and how art can catalyze positive change in our communities. Also with us today, we have Paulina Doso Terminal. She holds a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Visual Art Studies and a minor in Art History from the University of Texas at Austin. In addition to being certified to teach art in pre-K through 12, she has been a museum educator since 2016. As the manager of community programs, her role at the DMA is responsible for planning and implementing bilingual community programming in alignment with the museum's mission and strategic objectives. Programs range from large community events to smaller multi-session series supporting people of all ages and increasing equitable access to the arts in the Dallas area through relevant and responsive programming created in collaboration with community members and organizations. And now we can also add to that impressive list of education Zoom events. So love to welcome Mary Ann and Paulina. Welcome. Thank you once again. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much. We are excited to be with you all today. And yes, virtual programming is something that has been something that we've been delving into these last few months, but otherwise had been quite new. Paulina's going to pull up our PowerPoint for today. But in the meantime, feel free to mention in the chat or, use your reaction button to give us a thumbs up if you've been to the museum before.
So we've got Barbara Rusk, who stated they've been members of the DMA for 13 years. Kathy Ayeo's a member, Kim's a member, Sandy Bayless, Nancy Wilder have all said yes. I've been there. There's my phone. I go several times. Lots of people are stating that they have been going and support the museum.
Well, awesome. You may recognize some of the artworks that we're going to show you all today. Hopefully some are also new to you. And if you haven't been to the museum before, at the end, we'll talk a little bit about what reopening has looked like in case you'd like to come in person. So the Dallas Museum of Art is one of the 10 largest art museums in the country. And our history starts back in 1903. The Dallas Art Association began exhibiting paintings in the Dallas Public Library. And our museum's collection started really growing from that moment on. And you're seeing here the first piece to enter, one of the first pieces to enter the museum's collection, which is also appropriately called September Moonrise. So very timely for this time of year. And you know, as the museum's collections grew, it became necessary for the museum to find a new home. So renamed the Museum of Fine Arts in 1932, they relocated to Fair Park. Awesome. Yes, seems like Paulette also has been brought students back in the 80s. Yes, we love seeing visitors of all ages. School groups are one of our biggest audiences at the museum. And as the years passed by, as the DMA grew, we also merged with the Dallas Museum of Contemporary Art. That is certainly a lot. We've got some exciting exhibitions on view right now by artists who are still living and working today. And by the late 70s, again, the museum just kept growing, and we were looking for a new and bigger space. And so we were able to move back again, or to move to what is now known as the Dallas Arts District. You'll see here images of some of the different entries to the museum. Depending on which way you approach, you might pass by this beautiful fountain on Flora Street, pass by Woodall Rogers and Clyde Warren Park, or you might be coming along from Ross Avenue. And move on to the next slide. And what you're seeing here is, seeing part of the Center for Creative Connections. If you've come, it's our interactive space. It's particularly popular with families, and that some of the pieces that we will be looking at are from the Center for Creative Connections. We have a themed exhibition that rotates in and out. Oh, awesome, Janet. She's saying that she did a summer workshop to help start that space. That's amazing. I would love to hear more about that sometime. Yeah. Exciting. It's one of my favorite places in the museum. And when we transition into that, you'll hear a little bit more about what we're focusing on in that space this current year. And I'm going to pass it off to Paulina, who will share a little bit about our mission.
Yeah, hello everyone. I am so happy to be here with you all today. And yeah, just to carry on with what Marianne was saying, the Dallas Museum of Art, our mission is that the DMA is a space of wonder and discovery where art comes alive. And to do this, the DMA will place art and our diverse communities at the center around which all activities radiate. We will pursue excellence in collecting and programming present works of art across cultures and time, and be a driving force in contemporary art. And then the DMA will also strengthen our position as a prominent, innovative institution, expanding the meaning and possibilities of learning and creativity. So with that, we're going to move into our first gallery, which will be the European Gallery.
So some of you may have been to the European galleries on the second floor. They were recently newly reinstalled. This was a major undertaking, as you can imagine. You know, there was almost 150 paintings, sculptures, works on paper, decorative works of art that were reinstalled, and it was prompted by the McDermott's bequest of Impressionist and modern masterpieces. So it really gave the museum a chance to rethink the collection and think about how to show it in new ways. So one of the pieces that we're going to look at is one of my favorites that's been shown on view by Naum Gabo. And Paulina and I will be asking questions at different points during the presentation, and we'd love to hear from you all what you think about, you know, the art that we're seeing, you know, what other things it makes you think of. So I'm curious, what surprises you all about this artwork?
So I have a question. I'll start off.
Sure.
I'll break the ice. What is it made from? Is it paper?
That is a great question. So Lynn's saying, she's saying here, she's noting, so there, we do have a little bit of information from the credit line for this. It's ivory in color, but it's actually made from plastic of all, which is, yeah, has anyone seen an artwork before made from plastic?
Very cool.
Yeah, a little bit unusual. Yeah, Christine's saying no, Kathy has. Yeah, and what do you all notice about how it's been put together? What do you notice about its design? Interesting.
Looks 3D.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, sort of like 3D before 3D printers. I love that. Yes. And it feels that way. This is a sculpture. Yes. It looks like pieces have been, geometric shapes have been slotted together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kathy's saying that she likes the fingers. It looks like it's almost like a little kind of accordion fold back and forth, maybe to make them, for them to pop up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is by the artist Nam Gabo. Reminds me of origami. Yes, with sort of the folding of material and some of those crisp lines. Then maybe like a real person, it's not symmetrical. Yes, if we look here on the face, one of the eyes kind of has more sort of divisions in it than the other. If you look also at the shoulders, yeah, it's a little bit of an unusual portrait. So Nam Gabo was a Russian avant-garde artist. And yeah, we see some of those angles that might remind us of Cubist artworks. And he was really interested in thinking about kind of recent discoveries that were happening in science. And thinking about, especially thinking about space in sculpture. And how could you show a form of a person that would still leave like the surface open? You could see kind of inside, like see the interior. And he was working with some of the earliest forms of plastic. And this was something that was just becoming available at the time. And he was really interested in using these new materials to merge art and daily life. And as yeah, and you can see that it says based on an original design from 1916. So there's actually several versions of this artwork. He experimented with different materials. Some were made from the Nasher across the street actually has one made from stainless steel that you can see, but this is the only version made in plastic. Yeah, definitely to think about yeah, how artists are using materials in different ways that might be unexpected. Janet's thinking about Picasso using cardboard. Yes, a number of years ago, I saw some of his guitars made from cardboard, and it was amazing to think about how that material could be transformed. And someone mentioned that it looks like the pieces are slotted together. If anyone has ever assembled furniture from IKEA, you might think about how it comes like in a flat package, and then you can put it together to make something 3D. And these are a bit, where they can be put together. He traveled a lot, which made it really easy for him to have his art also travel with him too. And someone was mentioning that, yeah, it might be hard to keep dust free. That is definitely something that's come up. Plastic artworks are really tricky for museums to preserve. And something, one of our colleagues who's in conservation had spent years actually really researching how to, kind of prepare this work. I believe the pieces were cut, Janet, but that's a great question. Yes, it's definitely very, very modern looking. But yeah, this piece, it's really, it's almost 100 years old at this point. It's too fragile to leave the DMA. It's really sensitive to light. And, it's, our colleague in conservation took a long time to think about also the glue that was holding it together. And, you know, really kind of doing all that we can to make sure that this is able to be, you know, available for visitors to enjoy for as long as possible. But I wanted to kick off with that one. It's one of my favorites that came on view. And as many of you mentioned, yeah, it's pretty surprising to see what an artist can do with plastic.
Awesome. I will take us into the next piece. Oh, so sorry.
In the chat. Yeah.
I was just about to say, I can't see the chat at all. Me minimizing my screen just now was trying to, so that I could see the chat, but I don't want to mess with it more. So please don't feel bad if someone has a question or if someone has a comment. I'll try and like.
I'll take care of it for you,
I'll try
Paulina.
yeah. It's like, it's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So this is the second piece we'll talk about today, and I'll just let you all sort of look at it for a while. You know, and you know, maybe in the chat, if, you know, you have an idea or you want to guess, you know, who this person might be or what her role in society might be. And a little bit of background, right? We have the credit on the side, but this is an oil painting. It's in the European collection as well. This was another one of the gifts that was bequeathed from the McDermotts. And this one is actually, you might see, it says in honor of Patricia McBride, who is a famous American ballerina dancer who danced with the New York City Ballet. So when she retired, this was a piece.
Cool. So we have a couple comments. So Kathy Aiello says she wonders what she is looking at. And Ms. Jo Price said that she looks royal.
Yeah, right. She's got, and what is something that kind of makes you think she looks royal? What about her is royal? And yeah, she is kind of looking off into the side, into the distance, right? Like she looks like she's looking at something, and it really does kind of make you wonder what that could be. That's actually a very typical kind of technique used by the Renaissance painters. This was like it was in the style, this is not a Renaissance painting, but it was in the style of, right? So you see kind of like the triangle shape of a figure, right? Her shape of her body, kind of this triangle in the landscape or in the scene. And then, yeah, she's sort of looking out of the
yeah.
So the bounds of the painting. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. So we had a couple people say the jewelry, the brooch looks expensive, that would be an indication to them that she was royal. And then Lynn asked if that was a fur wrap, because if it was, that obviously could indicate that, and that her clothing are very nice. So those are comments about what makes it royal.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, yeah, her poise, right, is also kind of in that same, she's like very upright, which, you know, it's characterized almost sort of like this, you know, in the same style as the Mona Lisa is what is what, you know. But yeah, I want to go back to this idea of the brooch, right, or her dress of the, you know, right, what does she look like? Yeah. So that's actually probably just, there's no name for the sitter, which means that this is an anonymous person, which means that it was probably just someone who was sitting, and then all the costume or the clothes, the turban, the brooch was all just props that were in the artist's studio that she was wearing. But Eugene Delacroix, the artist, was, you know, he was really fascinated. He went to Morocco. He went on a trip to Morocco, I think in like the 1700s, even maybe late 1700s. He went to Morocco, and he was really captured by the people. And so he, you know, gets these props and he brings them back, and he wants to paint in these kind of different clothes that are not typical of where he's from, right? But what happens is that he also then starts adding other stuff, right? So you see this brooch that kind of gets added. And another thing that's kind of interesting is that although, you know, this is not the first time that a turban has been seen in a painting, this is one of the first times that it's seen on a woman of color in a painting in such a dignified way, right? So she looks like exactly what y'all said. She looks royal. Although we don't, you know, don't know her name, but yeah, so this was kind of like a lot of times you see during this period, people kind of, artists kind of exoticizing different cultures, Arab cultures, African cultures, and not really, you know, they don't know much about them, right? Because the only kind of interaction they have is through, you know, small skirmishes or maybe some trade. But it's not really until, you know, a bit later that I think it was during the reign of Napoleon, where he occupied Egypt, that people from Europe were actually encouraged to travel to these places. So this was really kind of like the, you know, the first time that someone might see someone who doesn't look like them through a painting. So yeah, it's a pretty cool
So
painting.
you've answered a lot that's come up. So we had someone ask about her ethnicity, and the comment that she looks very exotic, and that was the goal.
Yeah. So yeah, he yeah, I don't know if there was another question there that I might have missed, but oh yeah, the question is, we're not sure, right, what her ethnicity might be because she is anonymous, but it is assumed that she might be North African or Arab.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Okay. Well, if there's no more comments, I will go on to the next one.
One more, Janet. One
Sure.
more. I'm sorry. I have one more from Janet.
Yeah.
So she asked, do we have any idea of what the public's reaction was to this painting at the time that it was done? As far as it seems that because that culture was not exposed to, you know, your Northern African and your Middle Eastern, because it was unknown to them. What do you know, have any history on what the reaction was to the painting when it was originally done?
Yeah, no, I'm actually not sure about the public's reaction, but I do know that this is not the only one he did. So he did a series of paintings of women from foreign lands. So, and a lot of them have the brooch. So it's not the only one that the brooch is kind of like this symbol that kind of gets, I don't know if, you know, different people sit and then they wear it, or if it's just something that he likes to add as like a personal touch or signature. But I know that he made multiple.
Very well. If he made multiple, then it would be safe to assume it was received well, right?
Yeah.
One more question about this is kind of more of a statement, and I noticed this too when you first brought it up, but Carla said the signature's in an odd place because it's right there.
Yeah, I just noticed that too recently, right? It's right here. And I think Delacroix was very much someone who wanted people to know this was his painting from what I've read.
Very cool. Very cool. All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Our next painting is from 1791 by a French artist, Jean-Antoine Theodore Giroust. And this is a painting that really invites us to look closely. So based on what you see, what's happening in this artwork? Looks like a music lesson, says Lynn. Yeah, so what do you see that tells you that it's a music lesson that's happening? Specifically a harp lesson? So thinking about the relationship between the people in this painting, or maybe there's a performance happening. We also see sheet music here on a music stand. We see two people playing, a younger girl here on this smaller harp, and then an older woman here on this larger red harp. And now we have someone in the front who's turning the sheet music. Yeah, so definitely. And it, you know, this painting is, the title is very straightforward. It's called The Harp Lesson. So we're right on in terms of, you know, figuring out what we're looking at here. And so we have here the daughter of the Duke of Orleans, Louise Marie, playing this harp. She is there with her governess, who's playing on the larger harp here. And yeah, so it's her governess who's actually, you know, sort of leading this lesson. And over here is her English teacher, who is turning the pages here at the stands. And Janet's also noticing that they're dressed very fancy. So what do their dress and other objects tell you about them? Yeah, that they have, you know, they're very well off. You can, if when you see, you know, like it's a little hard to make out on our screen here, but there's actually sort of different jewelry that you can see. So thinking from folks from the upper classes of society. Yes, the hats are fantastic in this. There's some amazing bows and feathers on them. And yes, this is the daughter of a duke. So her father, the Duke of Orleans, was actually a cousin of the king at the time. And yes, this is from the 18th century, so 1791. So why might and this was commissioned by her father, the Duke. And so why might someone have a painting like this made? Janet's surprised that the painting survived the revolution. Christine saying, right, there's not, you know, so this is another way to document, certainly. Maybe the Duke is proud of his daughter's accomplishments. She's seen here playing the harp, so we know that she's musical. Kimberly saying that it looks like some things have been discarded over here. Yes, there's a kind of a roll of paper, a portfolio, maybe showing off talent. Yeah, thinking about kind of young women in this class, kind of things that they're learning, capturing a important moment in time. Yes, sometimes portraits were definitely created to kind of announce a young woman's, you know, sort of, you know, kind of arrival to society, a presentation to society. And someone who was mentioning earlier about their interest, their surprise that this survived the revolution, also points to a really interesting reason why this painting was also made. Does anyone notice this sculpture here in the back, this bronze sculpture? Does anyone recognize who that might be? Nina? Caesar? Going apart, we've got some guesses. Liberty. So Janet, yes. So Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom, in Roman mythology, it's Minerva. So it's the goddess of wisdom and war. And if you're something you're able to see in the painting in person, which Paulina, maybe if we go to the next slide, we can see how big this is. You can see there's we included some children for scale. She is holding a pike and also a bonnet that's in the style of the French Revolution. So including these kinds of symbols in here, also showing, you know, the arts in different ways. We have music over here in the corner. There's also a drawing instrument. This is a way for the Duke to show that his family, you know, has progressive cultural taste. You know, they support the Enlightenment. And it's really showing his family as being supporters of like liberal Enlightenment values. And it's a way for him during this time to really try to avoid death by guillotine. A lot of French nobles died during the Revolution, and him commissioning this painting was a way to help try to save his family's life. So it's a painting that, you know, if you pass by, you're like, oh, this is, you know, it's a beautiful representation of a harp lesson. Definitely shows some of the things you all touched on, but also has this really interesting political reason that it was made as well. And he, you know, while he was cousin to the king, he was very opposed to him and was, you know, kind of quite radical in his beliefs. So we are going to transition to the next exhibition. And Janet, I'll answer your question in the chat.
Yeah, so next, we're going to take some time to talk about the pieces in the Migration exhibit, which features more than 50 works of art from the DMA's permanent collection across many periods of time and medium. So this exhibit, which occupies the Center for Creative Connections, is organized in 3 sections: departures, in transit, and arrivals, and explores the impact of migration and how we connect across great distance of time and space. So, you know, this exhibit, right, it really kind of brings to light or starts sort of dialogue really with, you know, a lot of things, but really part of it is the recognition that over 24% of Dallas residents were born in a different country. And so really these kinds of conversations make, you know, about human migration are really particularly valuable right now because we look around our community, right, and it's so diverse. So in response to community input, this exhibition highlights the contributions of artists who immigrated to the United States, and it examines the movement of people expressed through art. So first we'll start with, this section is in the departures section. So, you know, whether people were relocated by force, fled dangerous environments, or pursued personal ambition, the stories of human migration can be found in these works of art, right? So looking at these, I know it's very obvious, but what do you think they are? I know it says it right there.
Baby sandals is what Janet has said.
Yeah, baby sandals. And what do you think, you know, what do you think these shoes might have been worn for or used for?
Protection.
Protection.
Kathy said, yeah. My guess would be learning to walk.
Learning to walk. Yeah.
Christening, a baptism. Robert said christening. Lynn said maybe a baptism. Janet said status.
So yeah, everything y'all are saying, yeah. So exactly, shoes for infants, right? They're basically for 2 things: for protection or for ceremonial purpose, right? But if we take a closer look at these, right, they you know, they're made of leather, and they look worn, right? Like you can see the bottom of them, and they have, you know, these stains of just like, you know, where you can see the cracks in the leather where it's been worn down. And so these shoes were not only used for ceremonial purposes, these were actually used for travel, right? They were worn. And so thinking about, you know, these shoes and thinking about an infant, right? The period that this was made in, you know, 1100 to 1400. So it's quite a long time ago, right? How do we, you know, it's, people have been moving and migrating for years, right? But not just adults, right? It's been, you know, but you don't just go move somewhere by yourself usually, and sometimes you do, but if you have a family, right, then they come with you as well. And we know that some of the earliest immigrants to North America traveled across land and sea from Siberia. So over 15,000 years ago, right, the indigenous cultures developed and spread southward from the from the Pacific Northwest, sorry. So as is still true today, footwear is critical for human travel, right? So these punch leather sandals They protect the feet of a Chumo child who, and the same thing, we can't tell as well here because of course we're not, we can't get as close, but if you go visit the museum, you can see they're right at the entrance of this gallery, of the C3 gallery, and they're almost the first thing that greets you when you come in, and they're one of my favorite pieces, right? If you look really closely, you start to see that there are designs on the sandals, on the straps, and on the back. You really can't see in this picture, but there's almost like a smiling feline, like a cat figure in the back, which could be like a deity, like a god, but it could also just be like, I mean, think about what's on kids' clothes today, right? Like it's usually something decorative and sweet, maybe florals. These kind of remind me of flowers or suns. So really what it reminds me of is like, I would definitely think that these are cute baby shoes today, and how some of these things are timeless, not just, immigration or migration, but also, the need for these things that protect your body, but that we also want them to be something stylish, or we also want them to be something unique. Yeah. So
we have Jan Reynolds said they must have been very difficult to make.
yeah, with leather, right?
Right. And Janet made the comment they're very fancy. Cynthia said they don't look very comfortable. And Janet has a great question. She said, do you think the symbols were for spiritual protection?
Yeah, actually I do. So one of the deities, so one of them is like a cat, and the other one is on the back. It's the crested moon eater on the side, and it's supposed to be, yeah. So definitely I think that these are deities that are meant for protection, or to be safe on the journey, or to get to a destination, or to start anew somewhere. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the work that went into these is just astounding. When you think about the tools that they had to make them, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and how they've sort of like attached the sole to the straps with this like under like this weaving method, which is so intricate, and yeah, definitely very looks very complicated for sure. If there are no more comments, I'm going to move on to the next one because we're almost out of time.
Yep.
And I really want Marianne to finish off on this piece.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Okay.
So, for our last painting, where might we be in the world based on what we see?
Dallas.
Y'all are the only group who guessed that right.
I know.
Really?
What are some things that make you think of Dallas? Cynthia says the flying red horse, Pegasus, my friends. So the mobile horse, yes.
That's a good eye.
Yeah, we've got some folks on the call from different parts. Everyone might be from Dallas, the Mercantile Steeple. Yes, you might recognize some buildings. So Paulina, we can move on to the next slide. Yes, so this is a picture of the Dallas skyline, but back from 1952, it was painted by George Grouse. He was invited by a local department store to come to Dallas and create paintings that showed the landscape, economy, and society of Dallas. And Grouse was originally from Germany. He fled Nazi Germany and was living in New York, and he needed the money, and so he came to Dallas for a few days. He stayed at the Adolphus Hotel. He was chaperoned around the city to different sites, spent time sketching and wandering around downtown. And yes, he was really interested in like commercial signage as well, which some of you have pointed out. The little Pegasus, well, not so little in real life, but up here at the top of what at the time was the Magnolia Oil Building. Magnolia then merged with Mobil. became ExxonMobil. The idea that Pegasus in mythology, wherever he steps, water springs from the ground, which, is a nice pairing for an oil company. Yes, Cynthia's noting that we don't see expressways in this painting. And, it's seeing, this is capturing Dallas at a really interesting moment in time. Kind of what words would you all use to describe the city at this moment in time the artist has captured? Almost as an island. Yeah, it seems really centralized, growing. We see some tall buildings, but not nearly as many as we have right now. Kind of a small, concentrated city. Yeah, it's showing Dallas as, the transition from city to country. You can really see that division. You definitely get a sense of, that bright sunshine that we get so much of here in Dallas, here in the sun. And so it is really capturing Dallas before the growth of the suburbs in the DFW area. So in 47, construction on the Central Expressway has started. It finishes a few years later, and that really, helps with kind of the suburbanization of the city, but we haven't seen those effects yet in this painting. And it's really kind of showing the concentration of kind of shopping, entertainment in this core of the city. Did not include the train. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. And yes, someone was saying that they saw, we had Pegasus on the Magnolia Building, the Mercantile, the Republic National Building is also, which is under construction, was featured. The time each of those were featured, they were the tallest buildings west of the Mississippi. So it's really, really, yeah. Bob and Jackie are saying it almost seems sort of bucolic. Yeah, so this painting is on view at the museum. We recently reopened on August 14th, and you can come see it and some of the artworks that we showed you today in person. Right now we're open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have free general admission. We recommend that y'all go to dma.org/visit in order to reserve a ticket. So while entry is free, we're making sure that there's time blocks, so you can visit between 11 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5. It helps us just make sure that not too many people are in the building at one time. It's up to 200 people per session. I've been there on site, and it really feels, we are still, anyone can open. We have some exhibitions that are under member preview, so there are definitely some member perks. You can come check out and see. And with that, I think, Paulina, did you want to share a little bit about Museum Mondays?
Yes. So let me stop sharing really quick. Yeah, thank y'all so much for coming on the tour today. Some of the exciting stuff that we've been doing since, we've been closed for the pandemic has been, well, now we're open again, but we have this really great weekly kind of email that's been going on called the Museum Mondays, and it has art activities, kind of deep dives on certain art pieces from curators, and like blog posts about, partnerships with different organizations or different, acquisitions of art. It's really, really kind of like a fun thing to get every Monday and see what's going on or what's new. So if you guys wanted to, if you're a member, you're probably already signed up for it. Yes, Barbara said she gets them. She says they're great. They are really great. I look forward to them. And yeah, so let me, for those of you, you can just sign up for the Museum Mondays if you want to get them, and I'll put the link in really quick.
I already did it.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I pulled the link that goes directly to the subscription page for everyone if you're interested in receiving those. Awesome. All right. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to share? Paulina, Mary Ann, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you all so much for having us. We hope to see you at the museum sometime soon.
All right. Well, hang on. I'm going to take everybody off of mute. Guys, take yourself off of mute. And let's give everyone a big round of applause. Let's hear some of the
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, they are greatly reducing their attendance numbers right now if you want to visit the DMA because of the social distancing. So it's a great opportunity to go out and really get to enjoy the art and see things close and not have to worry about crowds. So just kind of wanted to put that plug in there because, I mean, it's already a beautiful large space, but just imagine if it was just a small group, how great that would be to be able to see everything and take your time. We had close to 150 people in the room today for our Zoom. So that was wonderful. Once again, thank you so much, Paulina. Thank you so much, Mary Ann, for doing this with us today. We really, really appreciate everything that you have done. Everybody saying thanks so much. Great program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Facebook friends. If you want to join us live on these events, you can join us at celebrationmagazine.com and you can register. We do have some more fantastic tours like this coming up in the future. This is not the only one we're doing. And don't forget, you can also go to our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, search for Celebration Magazine. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. All the Zoom events and presentations that we do, virtual tours like this, are available for you to rewatch on there. So feel free to share it with friends or family, as I'm sure they would enjoy seeing it too.